Okay, let's jump right into this. Today's explainer is unpacking a highly complex, ongoing criminal investigation that's been quietly unfolding over the last several years out in California. We're going to be looking at the case of actor and producer Shane Ryan Gledhill. Now, this is a major, rapidly developing story, and our goal today is to walk through the facts completely clearly and impartially. We're going to look at exactly what authorities are reporting, how this massive multi-year investigation was actually built, and what it all means for the legal process going forward. So, the core news hook of this entire case really hinges on one staggering number: 24. Back on August 3rd, 2026, 46-year-old Shane Ryan Gledhill was arrested at his home in Lompoc, California. Now, initially, the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office announced his arrest on 15 felony charges. But as the investigation deepened and as more information started coming to light, that number quickly escalated up to 24 felony counts. It's a massive legal development, and it absolutely requires a closer look. Right, so the crucial point here is understanding exactly what those 24 counts actually entail. And the reported allegations are incredibly severe. We're talking about charges of child molestation, rape, forcible sexual assault, contacting a minor with the intent to commit a sexual offense, possession of child sexual abuse material, and providing harmful matter to a minor. Investigators have been meticulously piecing these specific charges together over a span of several years, dealing with some incredibly sensitive and serious claims. But hey, before we go any further into the actual mechanics of how this case was built, we have to pause on this absolute fundamental principle of the justice system. Just like anyone accused of a crime, Shane Ryan Gledhill is legally presumed innocent unless and until he is proven guilty in a court of law. It is absolutely crucial to separate allegations from facts that have been proven in court. He has been charged, yes, but he has not been convicted. These are serious allegations, but the burden of proof rests entirely on the prosecution to prove them. Okay, moving into part one, the ripple effect. Let's look at exactly how this investigation began. Look at November 2021. That is when the very first initial report was actually made to authorities. From there, detectives gathered enough information to secure a search warrant for Gledhill's home just a few months later, in February of 2022. But take a look at the gap between that search warrant and the actual arrest on August 3rd, 2026. It took nearly 5 years of painstaking evidence collection and analysis before they made that arrest, which ultimately sets the stage for the preliminary hearing on September 9th, 2026. So, how exactly did law enforcement get from point A to point B over those 5 years? Well, let's break down the mechanics. It all started when a 17-year-old bravely spoke up to investigators. She reported what she described as suspicious and inappropriate conduct from when she was just 15. And, that single action led detectives to dig deeper. They quickly identified 2 more alleged survivors. Then, when they executed that 2022 search warrant we just talked about, they seized thousands of digital files. And going through that takes a massive amount of time. Through that digital forensic evidence and continued investigation, authorities eventually identified a total of 9 alleged survivors. And investigators note that all 9 were reportedly minors at the time of the alleged offenses. Which brings us to part 2, online casting calls and aliases, tracing the alleged contacts. Investigators really needed to understand how these connections were being made in the first place, right? So they turned their attention to the film industry. What authorities are alleging is that Gledhill utilized professional settings to contact young actors. Specifically, they say he reached out to many of the alleged survivors through online casting calls and filmmaking projects. Now, think about it. For a young person trying to break into acting, a casting call seems entirely normal. It makes them believe they're dealing with someone who can legitimately advance their career. And while his legal name is Shane Ryan Gledhill, investigators say he frequently used the professional aliases Shane Ryan and Shane Ryan Reed to conduct these projects and casting calls. And that actually leads us to a really important question about standard police procedure in cases exactly like this. Why did police actively release his booking photograph to the media? Well, it definitely wasn't just to show his face to the public for the sake of it. Detectives released the photos specifically to help potential witnesses recognize him. Look, if young actors only interacted with him in a professional capacity under the names Shane Ryan or Shane Ryan Reed, they might have completely missed the news reports using his legal name, Shane Ryan Gledhill. So authorities are really hoping the visual will jog the memories of anyone who crossed his path in the industry and who might only know his face and his professional alias. Moving on to part 3, a 25-year alleged pattern. The sheer scope of the investigation. Let's see how this builds out geographically. Investigators state that the alleged criminal conduct could stretch back approximately 25 years, and because of his work in filmmaking and casting, he had the opportunity to travel and meet people in multiple regions across the entire country. Authorities are specifically looking at the California Central Coast, the greater Los Angeles area, and even potentially the East Coast. To put that into perspective, the geographical and chronological scale of this, spanning a quarter of a century and multiple states, is honestly staggering. And that scale is exactly why police are making a huge public push for more information right now. Investigators strongly believe there may be unidentified witnesses or even additional survivors out there. The Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office neutrally acknowledges a very real barrier in these kinds of cases. People might be afraid, embarrassed, or just confused about reporting. They might worry no one's going to believe them, or they might not even realize an interaction they had years and years ago connects to this current investigation. That's why authorities are really stressing that folks can speak directly to detectives, or, if they prefer, utilize completely anonymous reporting channels. Okay, part 4, the legal process ahead. What happens next? Currently, Gledhill is in custody at the Northern Branch Jail. Now, when he was first arrested, the sheriff's office reported his bail was set at $500,000, but that number has since quadrupled. As the number of felony charges against him increased from 15 to 24, his bail was subsequently hiked up to a massive $2 million. The next major milestone on the legal calendar is his preliminary hearing. That's scheduled for September 9th, 2026, at the Superior Court's Lompoc Division. If you aren't super familiar with court mechanics, no worries. Basically, a preliminary hearing is just an early proceeding where a judge evaluates the evidence presented by the state. They're simply deciding if there is enough proof to continue the criminal case and actually go to trial. And again, it is vital to remember this does not mean guilt has been established. The burden remains firmly on the prosecution to present their evidence and prove these allegations in a court of law. As we wrap up this explainer, we really want to highlight an overarching takeaway from the authorities involved. The bigger lesson here, as they put it, is to speak up when something doesn't feel right. Child exploitation thrives in silence and secrecy. Think about this entire case for a second. The thousands of digital files searched, the 9 alleged survivors identified so far, the 24 felony charges. Literally none of it would have come to light without that very first 17-year-old girl making the brave decision to talk to the police about something that happened when she was 15. It just goes to show why we must take these reports seriously to protect vulnerable minors. Which leaves us with a final, really powerful thought. If just one voice sparked a massive 5-year investigation, how many more witnesses out there might hold the key to the rest of this story? It's a perfect illustration of why law enforcement so often relies on the public stepping forward to uncover the full scope of a case. Thank you so much for joining me to walk through the structured facts of this complex investigation. Keep seeking clear information, keep learning, and I will see you in the next explainer.